You know?
Yeah, I heard about
Do
that.
I need to resign too? I can now. Should I leave?
Now we get to really showcase you.
That's a
really, yeah. So are we going to talk about your trip first, or what's inspiring
Whichever
us?
you want to talk about first. She was kind of segueing into she thought she'd be in that magnet business for the rest of her life. So
that's where Angela was asking me.
Yeah, because I don't know what the business is at all.
Yeah, I still love our water system.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, I think
like magnet people.
Yeah. So I think that in any situation.
Sorry.
Yeah. Former
magnet brand.
I think in any situation, I'm sure this has probably just happened to me in my life, but you all have never had a relationship that changed, or a friendship that changed, or a job or business that changed, or right, any of those kinds of things. And I think sometimes we all as individuals have a choice about whether we're going to stay true to who we are and live authentically, or if we're going to get off path and take an easier route. And in my opinion, the company went in a route that I could no longer sustain from an ethical standpoint. And so I found out that two of my closest friends and mentors in that business, who created millions of dollars in that business, were leaving. And my first thought was, wow, I'm really going to miss those guys. As I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. It's just December 29th, 2015, a day that will live in infamy for me. And then I thought, okay, so what am I going to do? Because I'm not staying with that company. If they've left, they're like the canaries in the coal mine. It's confirming all the fears I've had. And I've looked to those guys and said, gosh, guys, this seems a little weird. And what do you think? And they'd be like, we're trying to navigate the minefields. It's all good. But when I found out they were leaving, I thought, okay, I could renew my social work license or start to drive for Uber or something. I don't know. But didn't think I'd ever build another network, because I'd been in that previous business for 19 years. And then I went, well, duh. These guys are incredibly successful in this industry. They have impeccable character and ethics. So how am I not going to find out what they're doing and be with them from the beginning? So that's how I ended up in this new company. And it's one of those things about taking a leap of faith and free falling and not knowing if you're going to land in a minefield or in a meadow full of daisies and sunshine and dragonflies, and turns out it's the daisies and sunshine and dragonflies.
Yay!
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Which also leads to Machu Picchu. So it's so interesting how all these different things converge. At least interesting for me, because it's my life. So fascinating. But hiking the Inca Trail. Have either of you been to Peru or done that?
No, it's definitely on the list. My grandmother went when she was about my age, so I use that to say,
Really?
If my grandmother could have done it at my age, I'm going. It's just a question of when.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. Well, it's a pretty amazing place, and it was on my bucket list, but felt really remote to me. Mm-hmm. And my partner's sister in the fall emailed us all and said, hey, we're going to go to Machu Picchu and do a little tour of Peru. We're going to take the train to Machu Picchu. Does anybody want to go with us? And she's a big-time international traveler, as is Laurie's younger sister. And they've never really talked about any of us going with them. And so we said, yes, absolutely. And I wrote immediately, bucket list to hike the Inca Trail. Is there any way to include that? And at the same time, Laurie's younger sister, my sister-in-law Debbie, wrote back. We thought we were responding to each other, but it turns out we were both saying at the same time, Inca Trail. And so some of us were going to go on the Inca Trail, and some were going to do the train, and we'd start together. And for me, the Inca Trail piece, there were 6 of us from the family on that trip. And I've had 3 surgeries on each of my knees before I was 21. So I had to quit hiking, quit playing tennis, quit running back when I was in my teens and early 20s, because I had so much agony in my knees. And about maybe 17 or 18 years ago, when I was in my mid-30s, I went to an orthopedic surgeon because I had a screw coming out of one of my knees. I did have a loose screw. It just wasn't where everybody thought. And that's the only reason I went back to the orthopedic surgeon. I hadn't been back for like 15 years or something. Because, the old saying, if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And they always kind of drool when they see me. They're like, oh, we can do another surgery on her knees. And he said, you need double knee replacements. You're bone on bone. And you need double knee replacements, and we're going to try to wait till you're 50. And I went, yeah, thank you. No, I'm going another route. I'm doing wellness and natural healing modalities, and I've tried the Western medicine for this, and it's just made things worse. And he said, well, but you can't run, right? I said, right. And you can't really hike, right? And you, whatever, on and on. And I said, but I'm using all these wellness products and I'm feeling better. And he's like, well, we'll see. We'll hope to see you before we'll hope not to see you for a few more years or whatever. And now I'm fine. Now, the previous company I was with helped me get to the place where I could hike. But hiking here in Boulder, I live in Boulder, Colorado. There's lots of great hiking trails right across the way from me. I can see the foothills from my office window. If I did those hikes before, I would be limping around for days, even with my previous company. And I just did Machu Picchu with no challenge to my knees. And at 52, by the way, I didn't have the double knee replacements by the time I was 50. So that goal that they set for themselves was not my goal. And so it's interesting how that happened, because I'm sure I probably still could have done it, but I did it without compromise in that kind of way, which is pretty amazing.
Right.
So it's never too late to have a happy childhood. It's really fun.
Nope. I absolutely agree.
You two are like fabulous at that, because you clearly are having a lot of fun. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and you didn't hear probably about back in October, I had fibroid surgery.
Oh.
I had a fibroid that was the size of 5 months pregnant. It was like 6
Congratulations.
pounds. And I did very much what you did with your knees with the recovery. Zero pain medication.
Sweet.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think any modality, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if we're talking about companies, human beings, because we're all made up of human beings, right? It has a certain band of knowledge and experience and things that work, and it doesn't make it right or wrong. And as human beings, we want to make things polar to make it all make sense to the limited egoic mind versus the mind with capital M.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think if somebody has a certain frame of reference, then this is what the reality is. And it's so interesting traveling to other cultures, because it's easy as somebody from outside the culture to hear things that are said and kind of go, wow, really? People here believe that? But if we reverse it, we don't, like fish don't know they're swimming in water, right? So look at that. Hiking to Machu Picchu over the hills at 60. Huh.
60.
He just found a link to show what you're talking about.
I'm so impressed. Do you have one that says over the hills at 52? Because really, that would be more appropriate.
There you go. It'd be
That
closer.
was like, at 60. That was just the prettiest picture.
It's a really cool picture. We actually had 2 people in our group that were 63. One in their 50s, one in their 40s, 2 in their 30s, 3 in their 20s.
Oh, Elsie found it.
Yeah, I didn't know there was an article with it. I just wanted a picture.
It's a pretty picture. Yeah, it's a pretty magical place.
So what is the new company? What does it do? How did it help you? What is it?
Yeah, so the new company is a company called Zija, and it's a 10-year-old company. Have you all ever heard of them?
How do you spell it?
Zija.
Zija.
Yeah. Have you all ever heard of
what?
moringa? The moringa tree?
No, and I know I was supposed to watch those videos.
And you didn't, I'm shocked.
Sorry.
It must be summertime.
Well, I started to, but it was like a training thing, and then...
you must have clicked on them.
Oh, I remember those. I watched part of it.
Did you watch the Discovery Channel documentary?
But that was like
that's probably what I missed.
When you were going to be on before.
Right.
I've slept since then.
I didn't prep this time.
Have y'all thought about decaf? I'm just asking.
Speaking of, I don't even have my
coffee. Oh, well, then, see that? Oh my gosh, you guys are
trying to find a picture of the logo right now. Yeah. So anyway, I gotta find. Okay, great. See, that's great.
But it's the whole mirror thing, so that's a little weird. Anyway,
where's the? I gotta find the
10
website.
years.
It's been what, sweetie?
It's for the company's been for 10 years. So had it started before the whole company?
Yeah. So the guys that I work with really closely, who were bigwigs in the previous company, they could walk into pretty much any company of this nature on the planet because of the success they've created and make certain demands, requests, really. And people would be drooling to get them because they know that they're successful in that industry and know what to do. So they each made a list of 10 companies. So they had 20 companies. They had certain very strict criteria. One of them that was the company had to be 10 years old because most companies don't make it to 10 years.
Elsie's still alive. I'm still alive.
Oh no, do we lose her? Okay.
Well, the voice started going weird, and I think she's frozen. I wonder if I don't know that there's any sense you can make of it. You know what I mean?
I want to know what the product.
So the drink life is gone. Well, you would think it would stem from magnets, but perhaps not. And it'd be like Buffett. I remember seeing video on CNBC when Warren Buffett wanted to buy a company in Israel. And I mean, it's like, Buffett comes to your company and everybody's like, here. What do you want? You want my desk? You want my chair? You can have it. Death by Fufu. I love it. I want that name. Well, actually, I don't want Death by Fufu. Life by Fufu.
Okay.
Hi.
Is there a better website for the how do you pronounce it again?
Zija. How?
Zija, right?
Zija. I don't think she hears us.
Yeah,
right.
I wonder
if
there's
hear
like
me?
a better.
Can somebody message me or something? Can you hear me?
I can hear.
Suddenly feel so lonely. Oh, that's so great. How come I don't see you guys anymore? What happened?
Oh,
that's
did somebody launch a rocket, or
us?
Harrison's gas mask went off, or something happened? Okay. Well, I'll just talk until you all tell me not to. But part of what happened for these, refresh your browser. Okay, I can do that.
That's happened to me before, and the headphones weren't working. Randy, you remember that big test we did, and then it was just like all of a sudden, boing.
Well, if you look, I'm back on my iPad again. It won't let me on my laptop, so Blab's ever changing.
Beta Blab.
Beta.
Oh, she's back again.
Wow, that was. I felt so lonely.
Is there a link to send newbies to the company to understand more? You said there was a discovery.
Yes. Let me give. I'll just type in that.
I should have really been more prepared.
You're fine. I just put out my website. Can y'all see that? If you want to watch the Discovery Channel.
Cool. Thank you.
So, so there's a Discovery Channel documentary that became the foundation for this company. So have you all heard of a company called Nature Sunshine? It's been around for like 40 years. It was one of the original network marketing companies. Sound a little familiar?
A little bit, yeah.
What was it called? Sunshine?
Nature Sunshine.
Nature Sunshine.
So the guy that co-founded Nature Sunshine is the founder of this company, and his name is Ken Brailsford, and he's also built another company that's now called Unicity. And he sold both of those companies to go do other things. He's a business guy. He's a very spiritual man. He's very family oriented, and he was in retirement and on a 3-year mission for his church when a friend of his called and said, we need to get back in the game. There's this thing called Moringa oleifera, the moringa tree, and we need to bring it to the masses. And Ken said, you know what? I am doing my thing. I'm in South Carolina. I'm on a 3-year mission. I'm just starting it. I'm retired. I'm done. And the guy goes, just watch this Discovery Channel documentary, which is on the mtbseminars.com site. And he watched it, and what he described was he felt like the hand of God was touching him on the shoulder, guiding him to bring this to the masses. Because this particular botanical, it's grown kind of typically 10 degrees above and 10 degrees below the equator, and over 70 indigenous cultures have discovered it. And it may even be mentioned in the Bible. There's some suspicion that certain plants that are talked about in the Old Testament are actually referring to the miracle tree or the moringa tree. And just as an example, it has 46 antioxidants and 36 anti-inflammatories. So if you think about most diseases, they either cause inflammation or are caused by inflammation, right? That's part of what you were talking about, Angela, with your experience in the fall. And so if you can just naturally handle that piece, that's half the battle. It also has omegas 3, 6, and 9s. All the amino acids you need to survive, essentially, including ones our bodies don't produce. So when it's given to people in countries where children and adults are starving and there's high infant mortality, that infant mortality decreases, children start to thrive, they start to learn, they start to grow. Women who are breastfeeding, their breast milk production increases. But
I had a dream when I was breastfeeding just last night.
What?
Were you breastfeeding with the moringa tree? Okay. You had the moringa in one hand and a baby in the other? That's amazing. There's a whole little,
sorry. I really did have that.
It was clear that you weren't just making that up. I didn't think you were planning on spontaneous utterances about breastfeeding.
Do you ingest it, or do you rub it on things, or both? Or
both, actually. They've got a whole skincare line that also is using the moringa. So it's pretty interesting. So for me, in the last couple of years, I started having some irritating symptoms pop up that happen to women who are, around my age. Like challenges with sleep and achiness and headaches and temperature fluctuations and just weird stuff like that. And I thought, okay, just because something is average doesn't mean it's normal. So what's going on? Why is this happening? Literally 4 days within starting this company, all that stuff started to reverse. So, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. But Mr. Brailsford, the founder of the company, said, we don't have a calorie issue in this country. Obviously, we are eating about, on average, 500 more calories a day than we used to in the U.S. And but the food is dead; it's empty. So we're starving on a nutritional level, on a cellular level. We're not being fed, and then there are all these conditions and challenges that get covered up by medications and so forth that aren't really actually dealing with the issue. So, for example, the guy who was the scientific brilliant man behind this company, his name's actually Joshua Plant. Isn't that funny? He didn't change it. It's clearly his destiny to do this work. He got very excited about moringa and sought out Zija and asked if he could come work for them. And he's a guy that finished a PhD from Harvard Medical School in 3 years instead of 7 at the top of his class. He was being wooed by pharmaceutical companies and universities and all kinds of labs and so forth. And he said, why would I want to go for a company that's going to treat something that we can actually prevent in the first place through lifestyle changes? And so he knew about moringa and came to Zija and asked if he could work with them. And he's quite brilliant. But he gives this example, like if you feed your kids Fruity Pebbles in the morning and it says on the box that it has a quarter of the U.S. RDA of whatever vitamins, and you feed your kids 4 bowls of that and they meet their nutritional needs for the day, right? Probably not, because those are artificial vitamins, right? They're not actually vitamins. So it's just fascinating if you start to look at these kinds of things, what the impact can be.
I've had a friend who is an adult tell me she got all the calcium she needed from, I forget which Kellogg cereal it was. I'm just like, really? You think so, huh?
Yeah. And, it's interesting because there are actually, some of the food companies, the processed food companies are now owned by tobacco companies. Tobacco companies have had to diversify because people aren't smoking. And what are tobacco companies really good at? Getting people hooked on things, right? So some of the chemicals in the food, wow, it just makes it really challenging. So Dr. Plant also talks about a study that was done with rats, getting them addicted to rats or mice, can't remember, some little rodents. Sorry, I don't mean to not celebrate the diversity of our rodent friends, but I think mice. They got them addicted to cocaine and they got them addicted to Oreo cookies. right? And then they put them. Anybody here eat Oreo cookies? Don't just blink if that's. Yeah, but some of those foods. Some of those foods, actually, it's hard to eat one, right? Like you think I'm just going to have one, and then suddenly you're eating it. Even if you feel like garbage as you're eating it, you're still kind of eating it. So, Pringles.
I don't eat those, but I remember. And you really couldn't eat one, and then they were telling you on the commercial that you couldn't just eat one. The brainwash. NLP.
I really
you're just like Pringles. Yeah, or you think like, okay, I'm not hungry and I don't know what I'm doing, but then you find yourself in front of your refrigerator is empty, the light is burning out, and there are crumbs all over your face. Like, what the heck happened?
Unconscious.
But in this example with the cocaine and the Oreo cookies, they then put these little rodents back in this maze with cocaine on one side and Oreos on the other, and they went for the Oreos. Like that's kind of scary. Kind of scary, right? So I'm not suggesting that you snort Oreos now, people. This is not what we're advocating. But there are things that we're eating that are not actually food, and they're called food. And then we have issues with all kinds of challenges.
Well, what about? Yeah, and now it's like the people that are giving up meat are now eating meat substitutes, which is also a chemically combined food. I am guilty of that.
Soy chorizo is really yummy, but you know what is it? Some of those foods. Okay, so there's actually a brand of quote unquote vegetarian food that is Monsanto.
Oh God!
It's genetically modified.
Which one?
Soy or tofu or something. Okay. Morningstar.
They're getting it. They want a piece of the action.
Absolutely, they want a piece of the action. So.
Tempeh.
Yeah, and some of that stuff is actually food.
Time,
some of it's food, but some of it's processed food, just like anything else. And so, you know, there are issues with tofu and phytoestrogens and all kinds of things. And most of the soy in our country is genetically modified. I have a friend who went to Italy in the fall, and she has really big time challenges with irritable bowel syndrome. She'll get sick and not be able to eat for days, and she'll lose like 10 pounds. And she's not a heavy woman. And she thought it was gluten, and she's done all this kind of stuff. So she uses medical marijuana to treat that mostly, and has really great results with that. She went to Italy in the fall. Some friends said, hey, you want to come to Italy? We're buying your ticket. And she went, yes. And she can't take her medical marijuana into the airport and travel internationally or even across state lines, right? You can get arrested for that. So she was really concerned about the food there because she's going to Italy. So it's breads and pastas and all this kind of stuff. She got sick 0 times because guess what? Europe has banned GMOs. That's her theory. She's like, I ate breads, I ate pastas, I drank wine, I drank coffee. I did all these things that theoretically should have stirred up my system, and she was fine for the entire 2 weeks she was there. So it's all pretty amazing how this all works.
What is AS? Randy mentioned that it would be good for his AS. What's AS?
There's not a second S? I know what that is.
Yeah.
That takes me to a joke.
Don't be such a...
Just seeing if you're paying attention there, Andy.
Diabetes.
Yeah.
AS is diabetes.
Well, so first of all,
because
if there... yeah, that's interesting. So because this is food and not pharmaceuticals, it's not designed to cure or treat anything. And when we give the body what it needs, our bodies are miraculous and can do really amazing things. So, oh, yeah, that sounds painful.
Wow.
So the itis in the end of that spondylitis, itis means inflammation. So I don't know. I mean, part of what I love to do is let people get educated about this. I am a clinical social worker by training. I call myself an entrepreneurial social worker now, which is kind of an oxymoron because you think about social workers, you know, suffering and not making money. And I was pretty committed to that for years, and I'm over that. So that's why I'm an entrepreneurial social worker now, building an empire and healing the planet. Because money in the hands of good people can do amazing things. But we're not designed to cure. We're not supposed to be curing or treating anything. But I used to have an autoimmune disorder that I was told I would have for the rest of my life. And through natural modalities, I don't have it anymore. Now, did the natural modalities cure me? No, I mean, my body knew what to do once it had the right tools.
The healing, and I was just listening, Elsie and I were taking a class over at Mind Valley together, and she was just talking about it in one of I was listening to. The emotion, the physical, and the spiritual, they all go together, and you can start a healing through one, but it's always going to, trigger is such a wrong word, but you know what I mean. A change and a growth in one will trigger the same thing in another, which can sometimes feel pretty awkward, because I tend to grow from an intellectual standpoint, and then my body follows. So that can feel kind of awkward.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
You start with the intellectual, really?
Down. I'm a top down. And it's interesting when you look at it from a chakra way.
But you're also a deeply intuitive person.
I think I always have been, but I think I've blocked it. And I'm getting more and more.
But see, she has to say, I think I am.
I think I am.
Isn't that amazing? I think I am.
But I mean, I'm so much of a top down. They say that you will, when you walk and how you present yourself, you lead with your chakra you feel the most strongly with. And I always walk slightly bent forward. I'm leading with that crown, baby.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And with that being said, you know, what I have seen with the people that I have put these products on and supported with these products, and that's just one of the 3 product lines that we have, is the ones involving the moringa. There's a friend of mine who joined the business the same time that I did, who has some, I don't know if it's type 1 or type 2 diabetes, but she's not been able to feel her feet on the ground for a long, long time. And she can now discern what kind of surface she's standing on for the first time in years.
Absolutely.
And that's huge for her. Right? So, anything that's happening for anybody, the nice thing about it is it's food, so it's not going to hurt people, right? But if people get educated, and then I usually give people some samples and take them through an information process where they can really make a decision that's right for them. And if they want to become a customer, they can. If they want to help me build an empire and heal the planet, they can. If they want to take out a restraining order, they don't need to, because that's not my style. But they're welcome to say no. And it's just a way to just see what happens for folks. But it's pretty exciting, and it's really exciting with kids as well, because if you can get kids to start changing, part of what you were speaking about, Angela, is that kind of that cycle of dysfunction that we can get into, right? You talked about triggering something. So if you think about it, when people don't feel well, they tend to not move very much. And when they don't move very much, their body gets more stiff, because movement is health. And so they might be taking things into their bodies like prescription medications, over-the-counter medications, certain foods that will stimulate energy like sugars and caffeines and those carbs, things like that give you a temporary hit of like, yes, 5-hour energy, woohoo, that then crash your adrenals and cause all kinds of other problems. So it's absolutely. So if you can create a wedge in that cycle of dysfunction and get people to start feeling better, they're going to start sleeping better. They're going to naturally, like, part of what happened for me is that my body I just can't eat as much as I used to. So I am releasing weight. I'm losing you guys again. Oh no, you just were listening intently. Wow, that was so weird.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties.
I thought the screen was frozen.
I don't think so. I think I'm the only one that's still on.
That was beautiful. I just wanted to see if I could get you to do that. Score.
She's back. Score. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Back when I was married, I didn't sleep hardly any night more than, say, 4 hours. And yeah, I always had pain in my shoulders and neck. There was always carrying pain somewhere. Now I can find, I've just done so much stuff coming from so many different directions, right? Both yoga and intellectual and so forth. I've been really good that I haven't had to do too much for the physical other than the hysterectomy, which I knew I couldn't see a way to get rid of it without a doctor. I could see a way to not have any pain. This is just a bunch of stuff that happened to me when I was younger. And this is the physical, what built up from it. So this is already
absolutely.
over. My body's just catching up. It was great.
Well, it also sounds like you released some weight with your
ex. I don't remember why I was going there. Why? Oh, and I still am actually on the weight. I definitely did with there, and it's interesting the different paths you go when you look back at the relationships. What happened with me, and then what happened with him.
Yeah.
We took very different paths, very different paths. But I feel like I'm still releasing the weight, physical weight from after the hysterectomy because it made like a plate. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter what I did. It doesn't matter what you eat. Doesn't matter what you exercise. You've got a plate, and it's not going away. And now I don't have that anymore. And suddenly my body,
and then movement is all kinds of
You're like, you're 20. Yeah. Let's start moving.
That's exactly right.
So, see, but that's what I mean. It drags.
And that's how we can also kind of get a sense of whether we're on the right path in our lives, emotionally, spiritually, physically. If we're kind of leveling up, I like to think of life as a big video game sometimes. So. Like, oh yes, I got an extra life, or whatever, that we get to get into a different level of rhythm versus kind of being on the gerbil wheel, watching a TV screen, thinking that's our life. But we're just actually on a wheel, not going anywhere. So how do we take those risks and really break out of there? Since Utah for you,
since Utah for me, I have leveled up big time, and it's been a chunky level up. It's been like
well, growth is rarely like this.
And I mean, look at you. You obviously have.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's a few nauseous moments.
And sometimes you just gotta hurl. I mean, really.
Kidding.
Okay.
Release,
that's it.
Right?
I had to learn.
Hey, you guys know, I was tapping. I was doing tapping today. Tapping to release these beliefs no longer serve, and then tapping on the right side to allow. Well, all around the ear.
Right outside. It's amazing that there are so many pathways to health. And as long as we're learning and growing and living our authentic lives, then we're on the right path. Because it becomes the right path, because it's authentic and congruent, right? So I think that's
right.
That's part of what I am in the midst of relearning and remembering. Really, like when we lose our way, how do we get back into those paths, and how do we pay attention to what's around us and the different signs that show up and the people that show up and the synchronicities and serendipities. Deepak Chopra calls it synchro destiny, when we're actually really present and paying attention, that we can, that we know we're on the right path because everything's unfolding and cool people show up and all of that. I feel really judged by Blab when it shows up like poor internet signal. That's just... We work with them to like change their name, like challenged internet signal, perhaps.
I felt that way.
Perhaps a little aromatherapy with that.
Right.
Yes.
I like that. Comment box. Yeah, I was going to ask about the aromatherapy or essential oils.
It's a second of the 3 product lines. So the Moringa is all on the core nutrition, which is what it started with. And they added essential oils, I think, about 2 years ago. And, in that space of the essential oils industry, there hasn't been a lot of scientific change. It's a huge industry. I think it's like a $2 billion a year industry. And there are a lot of kind of sales terms that are applied to the essential oils industry, like therapeutic grade and things like that, which is really just a marketing tool. But what Dr. Plant has done is he's come up with a 5-stage certification process for really being able to look at how these oils in their purest form will actually do things like cross cell membranes and activate cells. So there's a patent pending process for all of that. So they're taking it to a whole new level. And some people who were leaders and experts in this field have left other companies and come with Zija now because they're so excited about. It's called the AMEO line, AMEO. Do I need to refresh again? You all are looking very...
AMEL?
Yep. Okay, hang on.
Oh, no.
It's weird. She seems still good to me, but her voice changed. No, I heard it, but I can't remember. M something.
Oh, no. Is it going... Rah, rah.
Uh-oh. Whoa.
Oh, great. Here we go again.
Okay, wow. I'm here and nobody else is now? Seriously? Okay. Thanks for the love, little things. I'm starting to get that that's something you're doing intentionally. It's not some random thing, neurological process where these little things pass by me. So I'm putting up my website for the oils in case you're interested. Oh, I heard somebody come back on.
Is it me?
Yeah, it's you. Click on the other pics.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, Elsie. I missed you.
Yay, I missed you too.
We were like traveling in cyberspace together,
okay, we have links.
But not really together. It's like single planes with one seat.
Whee!
So part of what's cool about the oils is on the bottom of every one of these oils, there's a lot number. And if you go to ameodifference.com, A-M-E-O difference.com, and type in a lot number, it'll show you all the different testing on this particular bottle of oil.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I'll just type it.
Okay.
Click on other.
Okay. So I just put that up. It's all a matter of being able to read the lot number. These are the essential oils. Yeah, so like this lot number
That's the essential oils?
Mostly rubbed off. I think I've got one in my pocket. Hang on. You carry them around, you lose them.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But they're looking at gene expression, so 21299. So if any of you want to go to ameodifference.com and enter the lot number 21299, you will be able to
2129.
You will be able to tell me what bottle of oil is in my hand right now. What kind it is, what testing was done. It's kind of wild.
CJ, are there ways to get samples of anything?
Yes, just ask me.
Okay. What would you suggest are good samples, like, or is it something you want to sit through a presentation?
AGX Focus. Da, 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 da. There it is. So cell active and permeable. You can watch that little video that shows how the cells are lighting up, different parts of the cell are lighting up. It shows that there aren't any heavy metals. It shows that there aren't any other contaminants. Some companies will use cheaper products to put in here, the non-GMO, all of these different kinds of things. It's pretty cool. I love that. That was like a little magic trick. What am I holding in my hand? Lot number. Anyway, sorry, you were asking a question. Oh, so,
Rick Glack says nothing on her.
How does one know what kind of samples to try? Well, because it seems kind of overwhelming, you know.
Sure. So what I would do,
to me,
like if you wanted samples, and you're talking specifically about the oils or whatever, what we would do is have a conversation about what your goals are, what your health needs are, what you might be needing, and then they've got those little teeny tiny bottles of oil, so I can make them little cute samples and put the little cute label on the top that tells you what it is and send it to you. I send out samples of the moringa all the time because I don't want to be come on down to the Miracle Tree Barn if we got a deal for you. Like that's just not my vibe, right? I'm a social worker.
But how cool But how cool would it be if you did have a booth that we could just come up to you and say, what do you got?
Great shows. And, you know, if I'm in Long Beach, I will bring a booth and set up in your living room. And I used to do that with the other stuff, right?
She just comes to visit me.
You can come to visit me here. I've got this really great Boulder, Colorado, man. It's a beautiful place. So,
our band is here, though.
Your band is there.
What the world?
Well, Nap is amazing.
Oh, we're all going to argue.
We don't need to argue.
That's pretty
No, Mom.
Wow, I really thought I was just inviting you all to come visit me. I don't know. This whole...
No, but it's the whole she's been to Long Beach.
You never call, you never write. Well, you know, okay. So, where is the love? The love is right here. Wait, here. If I do this, do I give you love?
Energetic. We're all connected.
Yeah, I would come. Well, you also, I think you also had a house that kind of lost its foundation, and there's some. Right, but
That's
you know, I thought I'd wait until everything was back.
Don't wait too long.
Well,
it's a 10-year cycle. It'll shift again.
Yeah, that is, but it's a constant opportunity for remodeling. Helps the economy.
Actually, we're all supposed to be visiting Angela. Actually, remember we were supposed to do a trip.
Yeah. So when are we doing that?
Train trip. Remember Janine Dietrich? She was like, we all got to go up there and we'll do a seminar or something. I forget.
I don't remember. Oh, I do vaguely remember that.
Do it all.
But no, there's been a few times.
I would love to come. So
come, but they don't.
Here's my thing. I am very committed to expanding my business to all the cool places on the planet. So I do have two people in Peru who are currently looking at joining me. So I get to write off part of my trip. That was pretty fun. Wow. And you know, what was I doing? I was handing moringa to the tour guides who are hiking Machu Picchu. One of them's done it 400 times. One of them's done it over 500 times. I'm there once going, ugh! And they're like, come on. But they noticed it's using it on their hike. So
what exactly were you giving them?
I was giving them a little sachet of the powder that gets put into a water bottle of the moringa aloe vera. And there are 3 different versions of that. There's the one that has the most nutrient dense version of moringa. There's one that has chicory root in it, which acts as a prebiotic, which is actually in some ways more helpful than a probiotic because it creates the environment where your own body can produce more probiotics that it actually needs. And can help clean out your gut, which is a really huge issue for health. There are lots of things there's a tea
issue.
They call it premium tea. It's like the most powerful alarm clock on the planet. Do not plan any early morning appointments if you take the premium tea the night before because it's quite the moving experience. So
it just totally cleans you out?
Not subtle. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I want that.
I
want that.
We can talk about what you want me to send you because I'm happy to send you both little gift packages.
I just love that. You guys, it's like a spiritual experience. Like I've eaten clean, and it's just my head just like expanded. Yeah. It's moving. It's a moving experience.
And you didn't even know that your head was what was getting cleaned out because it seems like such a different issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it's like all the junk up here, just all the what do you call it? The debris of
debris life. Is a really interesting thing, and gut health is hugely important. So that's what that version does. And there's another version that has some low levels of some really interesting energy and caffeine that's not like jarring over the top, blow out your adrenals caffeine, but will keep you alert and make you feel really good. So.
Randy likes some samples too.
Hey, send me your info. Let's talk. I'm happy to do it. I can give you all my email or my phone number or whatever you want. You can text me, call me.
And then we can all rejoin and talk about our experiences.
Oh, that's a cool idea. We could do this little yeah. My number is on my site, so you're welcome to use that. But I'm happy to give it out. It's for me it's like I'm very cause driven, which is why I became a social worker. So I used to think you could either make money or make a difference. And it was a very simplistic view of the world that I had that I probably developed from the time I was 2 or 3 years old based on what I saw around me. And then, of course, once we see those things, we look for evidence of what we believe is true and then keep reinforcing those things. And so it wasn't until I got involved in this kind of industry where wealth creation is absolutely possible if you know how to do it and are willing to be coached and also willing to let go of a bunch of crap in your head, like Elsie was talking about, and belief systems that don't serve, like you can either make a difference or make money. I found out that I had that. I didn't even know that I had that. You could have looked at my life and said, gosh, she went to graduate school and we're $40,000 in debt after graduate school and got a job for $21,000 a year right out of graduate school. So, work for 2 years, pay off your loan. I didn't really think that. But I didn't care. I didn't even ask what the job was going to pay. I was just wanting to work. And now I think, money in the hands of good people can make the world a much better place. And it's only about extending our influence beyond our physical presence. So if our influence is for the good, that's an awesome thing. And if our influence isn't, then we see the effects of that all the time. My thing is I really want to make a difference on the planet and really help people remember who they really are. So part of my mission in life is to mirror and manifest truth, brilliance, and power. And so I see this as a vehicle that's very congruent with my life mission. So I'm happy to go to Napa, Long Beach, wherever, to do that. I'm planning I'm looking at going to Boston and Cape Cod this summer, as well as the Chicago, Milwaukee area, as well. I'll be in New York in the fall. Manhattan area. So any of those places, I'll be in Washington, D.C. and that part of the world and Thanksgiving. So have fun. We'll travel.
Do you have a Facebook page?
That would be a really good idea. Could I hire you
for all that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've had other people say I should do that sort of thing for people in social media.
I tend to have more like root chakra, grounded energy. Well, crown chakra too, but I tend to be pretty kinesthetic and experiential and intuitive. Is kind of where I go, and then catch up with my brain sometimes. But yeah, I'd love it if you all want to check it out, because I think really good things. Part of what's interesting for me is I think that with companies there can also be this energy that gets infused, and if you have a company that has the right kinds of pieces that come together, you can probably feel it in different businesses you go to or different practitioners you go to, where there's just a congruence between what they say and what they do and how they feel and how they act when no one else is watching. I think, the things we say to ourselves when no one's looking can tell us how much we're really being congruent. If we're beating ourselves up and being a big jerk to ourselves when no one's around, then there's a lack of integrity there. So it's like, let's heal that. Let's release that, figure out how to move back and be on a path that's much more how we're being when we're in front of a camera or whatever. So that's true with companies too. And when I first met Ken Brailsford, the founder of this company, we're in this room kind of in early January vetting this company to see if I'm going to go with the place that my mentors had gone. And he comes in the room. He's this very humble guy. He's like, I don't know, early 70s. And he says, I just want you to know how sad I am for all of you that you're here. Don't get me wrong. I'm really excited, but I get you weren't looking for another home and things changed. And had you be in a place where you really felt like from a moral perspective and an ethical perspective, you had to leave. And I just feel really sad that those kinds of things happen in this industry. And we're really glad you found us. But I just want to acknowledge that pain. I was like,
that's nice.
Seriously, dude? These people are going to make you millions of dollars in this room. Like they've done it before. We're all going to do it again. And and that was where he was coming from. And I love that. I love that. Because that's real, and that's what really makes a difference, right? Is what kind of legacy can we leave, and how can we leave the planet a better place? How can we leave every relationship a better place? Yeah. So that's you two. A lot of what you two do, and what I do when I see you on Facebook and see you in the world. Part of what you're doing is raising vibration through arts and through fun and through play and through just letting us all remember not to take ourselves so seriously, right? Take our life purpose seriously, do that part. But every moment we're living, if we can just be in that place of going, we're here, we're all renters here, so what are we going to do to make the world better today, even if it's just a tiny little corner?
Woohoo!
And that extends beyond our physical.
Cheers! Happy yellow. Cheers.
Yeah, but
Ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have an interesting story. Are we going is this about the time we're wrapping up? Is that what you do?
If there's
okay,
still,
so let me just tell you a really quick story. When I was in high school, I was sort of kind of wing it. Okay, good. I didn't know if you had I have no idea what the heck we were doing. I was just trying to get onto this thing for months. So I feel really excited now that I'm here. I never want to leave. No, I'm kidding. Just the technical challenges we were having in the past.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, we had I was in this positive peer program, which was ironic because I wasn't very positive at that point. I was pretty depressed and upset teenager, but I look good on the outside, right? That
great. Lack
of integrity, congruence thing was in full force. Yeah. But we went to this retreat in Estes Park. Yes, Angela, Yay! Estes Park, and we were there with a bunch of other kids from other high schools in the Front Range area of Colorado. And one of my friends from my school stood up and she told a story that she had heard sometime that weekend about she'd heard it before this weekend, but she wanted to share it with the group, which was about a young woman who was in her 20s or something, who saw a high school counselor from her high school out in public years after she graduated. She went up to him and introduced herself to him. He was not her counselor, but she said, "I want you to know that you totally changed my life." And he said, "Really? How did I do that?" And she said, "Well, there was this one day that I was walking through the halls of this anonymous city high school with, hundreds of kids, feeling like I was not seen, was not heard, didn't matter. And I was walking through the hallway and I saw you made eye contact with me where you were walking the other way and you smiled and said hello. And it was the first time I'd ever felt seen in that high school and the entire time I was there. And what you don't know was that was the day that I had chosen to take my own life. And I thought, I'm going to do this unless there's some kind of a sign. And I took that as a sign and I turned my life around. I got into counseling. I did all kinds of things. I now have this great relationship. I have a kid. I've not gone back to that very dark, scary place. Right? But that was all it took, was that somebody acknowledging somebody else through eye contact and seeing them and smiling. Now, the even more amazing part of the story, and I've been telling the story for years and I have goosebumps telling it. In this big room, this man across the room who worked at one of the other high schools stood up with tears streaming down his face. A lot of the room was choked up as my friend told the story. Tears are streaming down his face. And he said, "Oh my gosh, that's my story. And this is the first time I've ever heard it come back to me.
Whoa.
And I know that story is making a difference even when I'm not the one telling it."
That's so
pretty cool.
Isn't that amazing? Cool. And that's part of what we're talking about the power of this kind of business model, the power of what you all are doing, the ways that things can continue to grow. We may not even know. And sometimes the vibration that we're giving off and the message we're giving off is not one of, "I see you and love you and support you." It's like, waving the middle finger on the highway or whatever, which also creates energy in the world that we say we don't want, but we create ourselves. So anyway, that's my soapbox. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, it inspired me because I know Brendan Burchard says he has this little thing he says every time he sees someone walk by, a stranger, and he'll make eye contact and say something. But that inspires me to maybe do Ho'oponopono because I'm one of those people that I've done this for so many years where I just don't want to be bothered by people I don't know. I get scared because I was taught to be paranoid. Don't talk to strangers. Right. Don't do that. I love people. But it's that thing. I want to thank you because that really inspired me to try this new practice and make it a habit. I love you, or whatever. I love you. I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Maybe just those two or something. Is someone trying to get in? Oh,
yeah. And, good old Deepak also says, Deepak Chopra talks about looking at people and doing namaste, just silently sending a namaste, which is like the spirit in me acknowledges the spirit in you.
Right.
Right. Yes. Right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And Elsie, what's really cool about that too is if you've been trained in the past to be fearful of other people or paranoid or whatever, for us to make a choice just to be in the space of sending that kind of energy gets you out of that immediately. Like, you cannot simultaneously be sending somebody love while being paranoid.
Right.
It's those two can't take the same space.
But it's amazing because I asked on my wall, can you be positive and think negatively?
You asked that question
at the same time?
At the same time. And I had a bunch of people, but a bunch of people said, yes, you could. And it's like, no, you really can't.
Not if you're congruent.
Well, I do recognize, back to the there's the spirit and then there's the personality. There's a delay.
Yes.
There's a delay.
I was just nodding in because it was a profound statement. Yes, the human being is a paradox. The human part of us is like the egoic mind, and the egoic mind, in order for it to be right, that's the part of us that wants to be right and make sure our voice gets heard and
that we're safe.
And I consider it like
right,
but it's not really about being safe for it. It's about being in charge. So that part of us makes a really great administrative assistant, but not such a great CEO. Right? So that's like not trusting ourselves, not following our path. We could rationalize dropping bombs on people for whatever reason, or stealing from people for whatever we do, beating our children, whatever. Some people will rationalize that and say, well, I'm doing this for blah, blah, blah reason.
Or simply staying at home, watching reality programming, and eating things that will make you fat. That's not hurting anybody.
Or addictive.
But it's still a choice, and it's still...
Well, and energetically, if we really are all connected, isn't it hurting others
absolutely.
Too? And it's an interesting
Because you're not doing, you're choosing, you're opting out. You're opting out. You're opting out. It's funny because I think of that in terms of The Walking Dead, when they had that guy that opted out, and the guy's so disgusted at him, right? Because he's killed himself because he can't deal with it, but he doesn't understand it enough that he didn't nail his head, so he's simply hanging as a zombie. But he's opted out, so that's what they're doing as well.
Well, absolutely, and I think we all do that in moments. I mean, I'm certainly not saying. I think it's a process.
We're more likely to do that, most of us, though, than we are to go bomb someplace or do something that hurts other people overtly. Most of us.
Overtly. But I do think paying attention to the microaggressions that we're creating ourselves can really, and cleaning that up can be really huge. I mean, I used to think it was perfectly okay to be a jerk in the car and make comments about everybody else's driving, even if I'm not flipping them off. But energetically, whoever's sitting next to me, my partner, is listening to all that. As if it matters that somebody didn't use their turn signal. My life was not in danger because I was at an intersection and saw somebody not use their turn signal. But I have some need to judge.
It's funny now when I do it, I tend to go laugh instead. If you could just laugh at the world, you are so much better off.
It's like a release, right? There's
absolutely. Laughing and crying are both releases of stuff that's in there. So, yeah, when they don't use that turn signal and they do something and they look stupid, just go, look what you just did.
Right.
Good
let
luck.
it come in, let it go.
Or even be like, wow, what does it matter? Why is there even a part of me that's paying attention to that?
Because it's the traveling circus in front of you.
Well, sure. But don't you think that when it's we tend to be more present, that stuff gets really quiet and it doesn't happen as much.
What happens when you get really present with the circus? I had this song, I can't remember, it's Hello by Martin Solveig, I think it is, but up on YouTube, they have it as that Dance as If No One's Watching on Walmart. That's how I found it. But so that's on my playlist. And I came up to a light on Lincoln, and I'm perfectly present. That song comes on, and I'm like, yes, I love this song. So I turn it up, and I get the guy in the next truck, and we're both like, we don't know each other. It's a beautiful
That's
thing.
Awesome.
That's what can happen when you're positive
That's awesome.
and present.
Well, see?
Instead of going, damn you,
there you go.
Got a big truck.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fun to do. Sometimes I play this game where I'm wanting to support people in shifting their vibration into a positive way when they're really grumpy, and it doesn't seem dangerous, right? So like, so I was, just as an example, I was at a gay pride parade, and a number of years ago, and there was one of the people holding the sign that says God hates whatever, you know, nasty stuff. And she was in this screaming match with this other woman. So there's somebody from the parade who's trying to support diversity and celebrate who she is, and this other woman screaming at her and holding this. And they're doing this, like, they're both doing the same thing, just from I'm right, you're wrong perspectives. And I went up to the woman who was the protester, who's just like, you know, veins are throbbing, and it looks like there's going to be a big Walking Dead moment any second. And I just put my hand on her shoulder and whispered in her ear, and I said something like, I'm really sorry that your life is so challenging that you think that this is a way that's going to make you feel better. What would actually feed your soul and put you on the right path?
What'd she do?
Right? She went, but it was like this pause where she kind of went, did somebody say something to me? And then went into this, you know, went back to screaming with this woman. But it felt pretty powerful to do something, even in that moment, to intervene and just be like, you know what you're saying can't affect me unless I let it.
And it really,
and I'm choosing to
let it.
It's interesting. Do you watch Game of Thrones? They have this thing going on with Game of Thrones where one of the characters is kind of where they can travel through time, and you're beginning to get an idea that when they say something when they're doing this, that the people are hearing it. That's the exact same thing you experienced. You spoke to another vibration, and it heard the echo of someone spoke, and you were just lucky that they didn't drag you down to the club-wielding...
Yeah, and that wasn't even possible. I was encouraging her to take a little flight, you know, let's go grab a Kool-Aid. Come on.
It at least feels like the more you're invested with evangelizing, the more you're attached to it, and I have to make you get this, the more they're going to drag you right down to wielding that club yourself. You just think you're wielding it for a good reason.
Yes.
But you're now the beat.
Yes, you know? One of the biggest insights... one of my pet peeves is, it's really not really a pet peeve, it's been a pretty big trigger, is dealing with people who are overtly into isms and obias, right? Racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever, anti-Semitic, whatever. And one of my biggest ahas was that if my big thing is prejudice, I don't actually get to be prejudiced against people, even if it's prejudice against people who are prejudiced.
Yep, you're perpetuating it. Tough one, isn't it?
Dang.
Right.
Conflict.
We need to be right, but we need to be on one side or the other because it's part of the healing of the world as a whole. Maybe. I mean, obviously, there's still issues. My child's best friend is a major racist towards him. And yet they're best friends. When they're just alone together, they have a great time. But in the school setting, he says horrible things about him. You have Donald Trump hair and
he
all
said they're
things.
not that,
and white people are weak. That's the big one. White.
He said they're not that great of friends. I heard him. Harrison did.
But
back on
yeah,
Trump
and yet,
yeah.
But they're always he always calls him. He wants to be his friend, and yeah, and I just think we're either on one side or the other. We're there.
I think
we find each other.
I think we can take. Sure, but don't you think we can take a stand and hold our space without having to make somebody else agree with us?
It's essential.
And I think that's the essence and energy that I think is missing right now in some of our discussions about some of these issues. Like, I have friends of mine who live very different lives and have very different political perspectives. And when I go into that relationship, knowing that there might be a hot button topic that's created that might have an emotional connection with, if I can go in with the stand of I'm going in to be curious. I don't want to try to change anybody. Like pretend I'm an anthropologist in this setting. I'm not changing anything, or Star Trek, right?
Yes,
the prime directive. You're going in there to understand a culture, but not impact the culture. And I think by the very present, so one of my friends who has completely opposite politics of mine and does all kinds of things that are very different than I do, he and I have become really good friends, and it's kind of perplexing to all of us. But I've just done that like curious thing, and I say, so like, why do you want to be able to carry a gun inside the Broncos stadium? I don't understand, and like those kinds of things, right? And he texted me a couple of years ago and said, I just want you to know that being friends with you makes me a better man.
Yay!
Now, that's amazing, right? And my being friends with him makes me a better person too, because it has to do with compassion and understanding and not me having to be right or judgmental, right? I don't understand some of the things that he believes. I'm fascinated, though. I'm fascinated how we all get to be who we are in the world. And as long as we're doing things that aren't hurting other people and intentionally and doing all that kind of crazy stuff, then there's got to be room for us to be creative and individual and have different perspectives. And then be able to take a stand when there's something that's happening that crosses a line for us.
There was fine. A beautiful moment on the land cruise in Cancun when I was there at Abraham Hicks, where a lady came up there and she was in the hot seat and she was talking about her daughters being uncomfortable with her not wearing a bra, and that she had the freedom, she wanted everyone to have the freedom to not wear a bra. And so she had to have it pointed back to her from Abraham that, yes, okay, while you don't have the freedom to do that, they have the freedom to wear their bra and to want to wear one. Because she was flipping the other direction.
Right. Sure. It's kind of like people who think, well, I'm a feminist, so that means all women have to want to have their own job and not have children and not, it's like that's not true. It's supposed to be about choices. Or like friends of mine that don't want to come out. Like, okay, why is that my issue?
It's not.
Who's whistling? What was that about?
That's our sinister moment.
As long as that's it, y'all are pretty benign. If that's all we have to worry about.
That is very true.
Wow.
Except for an occasional drink on a Tuesday night blab. I think it's been absolutely wonderful, and I want to try it, and I don't normally try stuff like that.
Yeah, you weren't really interested in trying any of the other previous stuff I did, so that's why I didn't Napa yet.
Tend to be more, like I said, I started the whole this sort of journey through Eckhart Tolle and reading and meditation. So see what I mean, top down.
Yes, everything is honored and nothing matters. Nothing real can be threatened, which I think is the Course of Miracles. But that's an Eckhart Tolle quote, the Power of Now.
Desire being the cause of all suffering. That's been a long time on that, but I want it.
Well, and that's okay if you just own it. I think it's just about just figuring out, is it the pain body that's being fed, which Eckhart Tolle essentially is calling the ego, right? That part of us that wants to be a victim and wants to suffer because it gets to be the CEO and not the administrative assistant. And that's really, it's like if we take a kid to a restaurant without any appropriate snacks and entertainment, and it's a really nice restaurant, it's going to be a nightmare, and people will say the kid's bad. No. We set the kid up. So with our egos can do amazing things. They can build businesses. They can write books. They can create websites. They can do all kinds of things. And when they're directed by our higher self, by our heart, by whatever you want to call that, then it's all about making the world a better place. When they are in charge and that other piece is not connected, that's when really dangerous things happen, in my opinion, in relationships, interpersonally, as well as globally.
That's how she puts it with, if you're not in the vortex, you're not going to even think about doing things like that. You're not going to be in that place.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Trick is keeping there. Most of the time with me nowadays, my life is simply, what do I want to do now? And when I do it, though, it's so much fun, but it's like ice skating. So that you're going really good, and then it's like, oh, okay. That's my life right now.
That was a really good impersonation. That was really cool. I like that. I know, like there's acting happening right here.
Genius. What was that guy?
Absolutely.
I stole that one. Sorry.
It's okay. We're all reworking other things, right? And there is a perspective that all the ideas we have are actually in the universe, and some people are allowing them to come through simultaneously, but it's not really ours in the first place.
That's the other thing is noticing, is trying to be present enough to know when it really is inspiration and when it's you trying to make something happen. I have a big one of those going today. Making
there
it
you
happen.
Go. Which brings us to the whole thing about like enlightened arrogance, which is another thing where people have done enough personal development work that they can talk, but they're not walking it. And so then they just speak at you, and there's this thing
Lipton.
that's missing.
Robert, I think it's Robert Lipton. No, not Robert. It's Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lipton.
I think it was the honeymoon one. He talks about how he realized that he was doing that. He had a self-awareness that, damn, I need to do this to my life before anybody's going to listen to me.
Amen. Amen. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, do you want me to give a website again, or what should I?
I suppose. Typey,
website, phone number, what do you want?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Website.
Handles that stuff.
Because you said your information, and you said your information is on that.
All right.
So that would be good.
And it was essential oils. What are the 3 chains again? It's essential oils.
So core nutrition, which is the moringa, essential oils, and then there's a fitness line of products, which are part of what allowed me to not be sore and in agony while I was hiking.
What are the fitness?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that at all. So
we didn't. So, a lot of athletes are using things to help with their performance and to help with hydration, and some of them are so full of chemicals that it's really not good for them.
Geez,
so there's pretty much all those G's and E's and 5s and all kinds of things, let alone the steroids and all those kinds of things, which are really horrible. Sugars. So they came out with a healthy sports nutrition line. So there's a pre-workout that has ingredients that help you get in. That when we're working out, it takes about 20 minutes for us to get warmed up to the point where we're actually building muscle and burning fat. And some people don't get off of the treadmill at 19 minutes, so they're not even getting into that benefit part, right? So there's a pre-workout that gets you into that that mode of burning fat and building muscle in about half the time. So there's that piece. There is a during a workout, feeding yourself while you're working out. So I know for me, when I hike, if I don't do that, I start to lose my energy and it's hard to keep walking. And I just feel like it's like, can I curl under a tree and take a nap for a little while? And you just get kind of spent being out there working, right? So that keeps you well nourished and focused. And both of those two, the pre and the during, have a little bit of caffeine in them, which helps, but not a lot of. There's not bad stuff in it. It's all stuff that our body can really utilize. Then there's a post-workout, which is part of what saved my knees. It has branched chain amino acids and glucosamine and things that help. You know how you get that lactic acid buildup or achy after a workout, and sometimes 2 days after it's really bad. Just helps take care of all of that. So I had none of that in Machu Picchu, zero, and no problems with my knees. And I take that. I usually do that during. I do that all the time. It's this one. Looks like this. Recover, Rip Fix, Recover. Got to flip my camera so you can see it without making it like you're in the mirror. But anyway, so that one's an amazing. And then there's also a hydrate that's like a electrolyte thing without all the sugars and chemicals.
Cool.
So, and then they have another one of those that has energy in it. Hydrate with energy, and that's like a energy drink.
But it does again. It gives you
and it doesn't make you go like. It does have a little bit of organic sugar, so your body can actually recognize it as something. It's kind of like when you walk into your grandmother's house and she's cooking something that you have loved since childhood, and you can feel your mouth start to water. So our body, sometimes the things that we're taking, if they're not recognizable by the body doesn't start to digest it and doesn't know what it is. So there is a little bit of organic sugar in there to help the body absorb it and to make us be willing to drink it, but it doesn't have that addictive, nasty, horrible piece. So that's what that is.
A lot of the energy drinks for the electrolytes for cramping, but he gets all that yucky sugars and whatever with it. So I definitely want to look at it for that.
Yeah, if he's open to checking out something else, I love it when athletes want to try the products too. So that's pretty cool.
Just has cramping problems.
He just has cramping
or an age thing.
Got it. Yeah. Well, none of us are ever going to be as young again as we are.
You are the youngest you're ever going to be right now. Always. And now.
And now. And I'm 40, 12, and still going strong. So yeah.
I'm not sure.
Elsie, did you drop your contact? Wow.
We need to get going though, because I'm tired of sitting.
Yeah, it is time to move on.
Rear end is saying, move now, move.
Yeah, baby. See, this is good. That's that cycle of productive action versus the cycle of dysfunction. So
she's back.
Here you go, girl. It's been lovely hanging out with you both. I really appreciate it.
Come back after we try this stuff. That's a great idea. I love that.
That's great.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And
don't be a stranger.
And we can come up with. I will. Hey, I'm the strangest, so that's always my goal. Yeah, let's chat about what your individual needs are, and anybody else who wants to do that, I'm happy to do that, and I love sending samples. So you two are fabulous. I feel very blessed that I went to that retreat, and in a little bit, I get to actually go have lunch with Dawn Mitchell, who is in this business with me, and I will share that Vicki was going to be on with us without the technical challenges, but she's on vacation, and so Dawn is in with me. I will give her a big hug.
She is.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
I love all you guys.
So. Yeah.
Best thing I ever
well,
did.
And I love you all. So I know it's really amazing, and it's going to be 2 years this summer. It's hard to believe. It feels like it was just last year, but a lot's happened.
It's been huge since then.
Yeah,
huge. All right, I'm going.
So thank you all for watching and listening, and I look forward to hearing from folks. And big hugs to all of you, energetically. Mwah.
Bye.
Love you. We'll see you later. Bye bye.